Okay, we are live. Welcome back, everyone, to the Prospero.ai stock market live stream. We have a shortened trading week for this holiday season. Tomorrow, the market will be open till 1 p.m., so about a half day, and then closed on Wednesday before we're back for the rest of the trading week. I can't wait to ask George, which will probably be towards the end of our stream topics today, about what it's like being inside Wall Street on a holiday week like this, what actually goes on in the bowels of New York City. I'm joined here by Matt, which will also talk about some topics to George today. So, Matt, what are you and George going to discuss?
Yeah. So first of all, it's good to join you today. Thank you so much for having me, Stephen. In the newsletter on Sunday, I guess it was yesterday, we talked about really two main topics. One is we got into quantum computing, which as of late has been going bananas. If you guys have not seen it, you've got IonQ, QUBTS, all these quantum computing stocks, some of which have gone 2,000% or more over the last few weeks. We got into that, talked about why, talked about a play that George made on IonQ, which is my personal favorite quantum computing stock, and how George stayed in it, even though it was falling based on net option sentiment. And so that's a cool story. But then the thing, Stephen, that I found the most fascinating that we talked in yesterday's newsletter is the fact that the SPY net option sentiment has been pegged at zero for about a week now. And that's only happened a few times in our history. And we're going to talk about like what that means, that SPY net option sentiment has stayed at zero. There's a trend, and folks need to be paying attention to it. So that's what we're going to jump into.
Yeah, that's a bit concerning. It's been watching the SPY consistently lag the QQQ recently and now all the way down there. So I'm interested on that. And we actually have been discussing the quantum computing stocks on the stream. And for everyone after this live stream, if you just go on our YouTube channel, there's a short, like 3-minute video about some of the stocks we were talking about. So after George and Matt talk about it, you'll probably be interested in seeing those and which one is the number one safest way to play it long term. George might even mention it on the stream today, but we'll see. One stock I want to talk about because there's a viral clip going around on social media where someone took a blowtorch and just held it over an Oreo for like 30 seconds. And there's a stock called Mondelez, MDLZ, that is the owner of that brand and a lot of other snacks. And their stock is actually down year to date, hitting 52-week lows. So maybe the Prospero signals, as it ranks high and downside, knew something was coming from Mondelez. I think there's threats of lawsuits and this whole Maha Make America Healthy Again seem to be hitting that company and a lot of other snack brands too. I noticed PepsiCo is down, so we'll get into all of those and just a lot of other stories rounding up the year on some of our favorite stocks like Eli Lilly, AppLovin. We have a story about a cool artist that is not human. It's actually AI, and it's made millions in the last couple of years. So a lot of interesting stories to get into on this holiday week. Everybody's feeling cheerful on our end today. Hopefully, all of our viewers are feeling good too. But I will let Matt and George get into it and talk about what's going on in the SPY and QQQ. I'm interested.
Yeah, so it's good to see you, George. Love your shirt as always. Obviously, you're in the Christmas holiday spirit, wearing an Aloha Hawaii shirt. But man, it's good to see you. Thanks for having me today. Told the audience we're talking about two things primarily in the newsletter yesterday. Number one was quantum computing stocks. Um, George gave me the task of giving a layman's definition of quantum computing, which when he did that, I immediately in my mind thought, oh no, because I've actually tried to figure out quantum computing, George, a couple of times on my own, and I've never heard a good explanation of it. And so I chat GPT'd it. And the illustration it gave was one of a librarian, that if a regular computer was a librarian, that it could go get one, because it's made of bits, which are zeros and ones. It can go get one library book at a time, albeit very fast. It can only do one task at a time. And then compared quantum computing to like a next level librarian that can go get millions of books all at the same time, because it doesn't use bits but qubits, which is 0 and 1, but it can also do 0 and 1 at the same time. Anyway, all that to say, it's pretty awesome. But what we got into was IonQ, which is my personal favorite quantum computing stock. We can tell that story if we want to, but man, it's gone ballistic over the last few weeks. And you jumped in, and we got into kind of like why you jumped in because of the net option sentiment and how small caps are impacted by net option sentiment. So, George, you want to talk about that? Why'd you jump into IonQ even though it had run up a significant amount by the time you got in?
I jumped into IonQ because it was high up in our momentum score, which is one of the new scores that in the new year we'll be rolling out. That puts together a lot of our different scores. One of our newest ones, Technical Flow, that actually will go in the app in the not too distant future. And that's really looking at a lot of different scores all rolled up into one. But much like with some of the other signals, when I see lower cap stocks high in momentum score, that gets my attention, right? And it's kind of funny. I remember talking to you in one of the letters about parallel universes and, quantum theory. And, you might have thought that it was just reserved to that one and like kind of the lesson that we taught about like, it doesn't matter if you made one bad decision because the 99 other U's in parallel universes didn't. But that's paralleled today too, because that's essentially what's going on with quantum computing, where regular computers, they need to have an action of a 0 and a 1. Basically, what's going on in quantum computing is similarly to how electrons exist, where they only exist when measured, and they're in the spot when they're measured. But before that, they can be in multiple places, multiple states at the same time. So that's kind of hard to grasp at a high level. Bringing it back to the tangible, right? There's a lot of momentum behind these stocks right now. And, I think when we've talked about these kind of things before, Stephen mentioned that I think it was another, I think we might have been Oklo or something that had a contract in like 2044. So you have to understand the difference between like, how long some of this might take to be profitable, but also the very real excitement around it and people trying to get on the ground floor and the funds going into it. So yeah, that was, that's why we invented something like net option sentiment last week. And we'll see how this turns out. It's not always right, but when IonQ was down 15%, I believe it was last Wednesday, I was like, oh, maybe it's time to get out. It opened up 9% the day after it was down 15%. And I was like, oh, maybe. But then that day it went red after being up 9%. And I was like, oh, it's definitely time to get out. But I saw net option sentiment staying pretty stable in the mid 80s. And that's how we kind of got our letter draft together, because I was like, for a small mid-cap company, 85 net option sentiment is a really good net option sentiment. So, that's a lot of how we invented Prospero to make this easier for people, make it easier for myself. I said, okay, you know what? If it's there, I don't really know what's going on with all this volatility. It's a lot of volatility. It continued today. But I was like, if the options bets are remaining optimistic enough, I'm gonna leave it there and let it play out.
100%. That was a huge learning point for me, and my growth journey with Prospero is understanding that small caps are by nature going to have a little bit lower score. And so, for example, if IonQ, which is a smallerish cap company, jumps up to 85 from 60 something, which is what it did, that's a huge deal. Whereas if Meta, this is what 1.3 trillion or whatever it is, if it's at 85, that's not near as good as a small cap. So if one of the things I've done, George, is I get a list together on the app, Prospero app, and many of are small caps that I'm watching, and I watch their net option sentiment, and that's when I know to jump in. But George, that's man, let me ask you this question. All of us wish we could go back in a time machine to the 1990s and buy Apple stock when it was way overvalued or whatever. Do you think that this could potentially be the same thing? That even though the valuations don't match up, is this going to be one of those things that we look back on 20 years from now and go, man, I wish we could go buy IonQ or QUBTS or whatever at the prices that they're at?
My philosophy on this is that you're better off creating a process to invest around things like signals. The truth is, like, yes, everyone would like to go back in time and spot that exact little thing. But the truth is, identifying the next trend that one company is so much harder than finding things that look good in signals that have already been validated. And increasingly, and we've talked about it in some of our letters, especially the concentration of growth in large market cap companies, Matt, that the problem is a lot of the times the biggest companies have the most exciting growth opportunities. So it's a whole different risk environment that we're living in right now. I think that's a mistake a lot of retail investors make, in my opinion. They're trying to find the next thing. They're gambling a lot on trying to find the next thing. Whereas you can wait until something's proven out a little more and then get there. I mean, even IonQ, you could say, is a bit, over the hill at this point in terms of the momentum behind it, right?
Sure.
And what's interesting about that is kind of what I alluded to at the beginning. The actual play out of the value of the company is going to come much later. There's just tons of speculation on it now. So what you want to do is put yourself into a process where you can evaluate what the right price to get some of these trends and momentum is, because that's a big part of today's market. And that's how we teach things differently at Prospero, I think, than a lot of other places. A lot of places will just say value, look at the numbers, blah, 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 they trade at crazy multiples. We accept that momentum is part of the value in this market. But in accepting that, you really have to have the right signposts, and a lot of our signals are that, to help you figure out where, when, how the momentum is going.
That's good. And speaking of momentum, let's talk about SPY net option sentiment for a minute. I may be off just a little bit on this, but I believe that SPY net option sentiment has been sitting at zero for almost a week now. If not a week, it's been a while. And excuse me. And one of the things we talked about in the newsletter yesterday is that we've seen a trend over the last 2 or 3 years, is that when net option sentiment stays at zero or around zero for an extended period of time, so far that has, forgive me if this is wrong, has always led to a fairly significant downturn. And so the fact that even this morning it's still sitting at zero, does that concern you? How should we be handling this?
So we call that the dreaded zero flatline. But I've got some good news. It was at 3 when I first looked at it, at 2. That's not a zero flatline, right? It's pretty bearish. It shows signs of very aggressive hedging uncertainty, which, doesn't surprise you. It's a lot of the topics we're talking about. Like, I think the big thing is, as much as people expect the Trump administration to be pro stock market, we're getting very close to a lot of uncertainty. Nobody knows exactly how it's going to play out. They need to see the legislation. They need to see the transfer of power. And I think a lot of people are kind of just hedging because the market is so overvalued, right? It's a very, very interesting time. Everyone can agree valuations are high. Everyone can agree that the administration coming in is going to support the stock market. And everyone can also agree that there are some things like stickier inflation, a lot of consumer debt. There's a lot of these, things being kind of cooked up in this crock pot that I'd say overall are looking bullish, but it's not like a bull market. Everything's great. It's not like that. It's a bull market that is only a bull market because we're expecting the government to support it. And that is a that is a pretty tenuous bull market, and I would say perhaps a volatile bull market until we can see some kind of better strength supporting these values.
That's an interesting point. And I would ask you one final question, and we didn't talk about this earlier, but one of the things I read last week was that the fear and greed index swung wildly from extreme greed to extreme fear within just one day. Have you seen that before? And what does that say about the overarching sentiment of the market?
It is highly atypical. I think that's the exemplification of what I was just talking about. I think that, because we have the bullishness supported by expected government support, that is what makes the situation so unique, that there might be a healthy correction that this market needs, but that the incoming government is not going to want. So I think that is kind of creating a very interesting conversation around value, conversation around momentum. It's how you see stocks like, we talked about Palantir a few months ago. The crazy valuations Palantir is trading at, and I say it's crazy, maybe not crazy, because there's an expectation that Palantir is going to do very well under the Trump administration, right? That's baked into the price of it. I'd say that's the most extreme example, but there's a litany of examples of things like that. And I think that, even if you're talking about cryptocurrencies, right? A lot of them ran with the expectation of a friendly Trump administration. But there's a difference between saying, we expect this to do well, happy times, it's going to go up, and then, okay, well, how do we quantify exactly what this means for the cryptocurrency? So you see a rise, but it's very hard for the market to decide on a value of that bull run when we don't even know the policies that are going to be in place yet.
Right. Yeah, it's like everybody wants to be bullish, but they're scared to death at the same time. Well, listen, for those of you that celebrate, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, George. I appreciate everything you do for us, man. Have a Merry Christmas, brother, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Matt. One thing I wanted to add before we move on from this quantum computing topic is that I was doing some researching over the weekend since we've been talking about it, and I found an ETF that might be a safer way for people who want to get exposure to a lot of the riskier stuff, because their third largest holding in this ETF is IonQ. Their biggest holding is Rigetti Computing, and the second biggest is D-Wave Quantum, which have all been popular, some of the stocks that have made the big moves. Its ticker is QTUM, Defiance Quantum ETF. So I just thought I'd mention that for people to check out. Okay, where do we go from here? So you guys talked about the market and kind of gave a little bit of your up-to-date view on that. So I think we can skip the market update today so far. What I did want to talk about, though, is now that the year's, all but coming to a close, we have successfully beat the market by around 50%. When I say we, I mean you, for 3 straight years. I wanted to ask you today, how were you able to do that? What strategies do you use? You always highlight the importance of a process for other people. So what is your process when it comes to the Prospero signals and your performance in the market?
Yeah. First thing is we should always, the Prospero makes paper trades. We always want to make sure that we announce that with our performance. So there's a high level process that I engage in using the Prospero signals. And that is that Prospero will deliver me big wins based on, I'd say, especially where tech, consumer cyclical, healthcare, those sectors especially, they're about to pop off because of knowledge of the market, contracts, direction. And we've seen that time and time again. We're fed names like that. AppLovin, I think we're going to talk about later, is the big one this year that wasn't on anyone's radar. that we got in early. So we have that on the one level, right? We know these big wins are coming, and we're just trying to mine around in these signals and just say like, okay, reading the tea leaves, this is how we can find the big wins. And, we find our big wins. That's one of the things that I say. Sometimes, the old guard, Wall Street or whatever, they'll ask me if I'm trading options or whatever. It's like, no, we just have well-timed, a lot of the times large or mega cap stocks that look like the options markets are betting on a big move, and we just elevate them, right? So that's our high level strategy. Then we use SPY and QQQ net option sentiment to tell us how long short we should be, how bullish or bearish on the market. And that's one of the things that, Matt and I talk about. And I know he uses those signals a lot. So we'll take that, we'll get a temperature that tells us how long short we should be. And then we use our shorts defensively to protect while we're waiting for our big wins. Sometimes like this week is a perfect example. We're 7 long, 7 short. Traditionally, if we were in a bear market with SPY and QQQ net option sentiment, the way that they were, I think it was like 12 and 0, we would have probably been closer to something like, 8 short, 5 long. But since we've been in this extended bull run, you have to respect the history. You have to respect what we saw on Friday too. So we balanced it out a little more. We're always trying to balance all of those factors. But that is always our high level strategy. We say, okay, what in our signals looks like the market is loading up for some big wins on these, larger cap, safer tech, consumer cyclical, healthcare, typically stocks. And then how much downside protection do we need in the form of shorts? And in bull markets this year and last year, we had more shorts than longs. And that's very important because what we do is we're always quick, if we're worried about the market, to take defensive positions to short against our longs. And that's not a strategy for everyone. That's why we like paper trade and show everyone how the strategy works, because that's what a lot of people are kind of missing. And that's why we did well in the bear market too, because you need to have a defensive strategy in addition to having your big winners. And we've really hit our stride at Prospero. It's our best year this year.
And we've mentioned before, and you just said how there's been more shorts and longs, even on a bull year. I think we were about 100 more. In a bearish year, would the ratio of that be a lot even more shorts, or would they just be held longer, you think?
Oh, yeah. I think every year we've had more shorts than longs. But sometimes in much larger quantity, right? Because this is what we always, this is kind of back to my value background, where it's just like, if you can identify stocks that are of good value, good companies that are going to come around, that's the best thing you can ever do in investing. And then everything else we do is just protecting around those companies. And the thing we do at Prospero that's very unique is we don't just say we like them, the value setup likes them, good products, good growth. We also verify that institutions are betting on these names in the short and long-term options markets more relatively to other stocks. It's a really simple strategy. At the end of the day, works really well for us.
And one of the stocks, I'm not sure if we were ever short this year, but it would have been good to be, because it's hitting 52-week lows and down 18% this year, is Mondelez, ticker MDLZ. They are the maker of Oreos and a lot of other snack products. And there was this viral clip going around social media over the weekend of someone took a blowtorch and he held it up to an Oreo for 30 seconds long, and it did almost no damage. The Oreo didn't, catch on fire at all, kind of repelled, fire repellent. So there was a lot of drama going around this and maybe lawsuit accusations of like the chemicals that they use and how could an Oreo, withstand that. And a lot of other snack companies have done poor recently, like PepsiCo and others. How do you feel about that whole space with this Maha thing that's coming to the markets probably next year. Have we seen that been priced in now? And then, the fact that an Oreo can supposedly withstand a flame.
I mean, it is an interesting time, I think, in history right now, where I think people are thinking about the impact of their products more. Like, I think, not to tie everything to this, but I mean, it is this United Health shooter, I think, has made everyone look at capitalism a lot harder. And when you look hard at capitalism, it doesn't stand up to the scrutiny, right? It's just like when you hear something like that, you're just like, wait, these are cookies that we're giving to our children. And like, you could take a blowtorch to that. And that's in some ways shocking, but also not shocking. I think that's how this happens, right? Where you're just like, that's typical. That's whatever. This is what they're putting in our kids' bodies. And I think we're at a time in history right now where people are taking a hard look at that kind of stuff.
So I think the real debate I have when I see the moves these stocks have made and everything you've said is that all priced in now? Because they have moved down a lot. Could there be a rebound because all of the fear that is expected to come is already expected and priced into these stocks, or are they just kind of untouchable until these things kind of clear up?
I mean, I don't think you can really build a strategy around that, right? Around, like, these are the companies that people are going to come for or not. Like, who knows? I think there's a lot of, like, I remember a conversation with someone about talking about ESG investing, and they were like, oh, well, I wouldn't invest in Meta, like, because they didn't do well around the election or something like that. And I was just like, well, if that's your barometer, I'm like, and I remember this, I said, like, pretty much any food company, you probably are not going to invest in anything, because I think a lot of these food companies are more immoral than just, not knowing how to handle a very difficult thing like censorship and, like, false information around elections. I'm not saying they handle it well, but I'm just saying it's complicated, right? You know what isn't complicated? Feeding people things that don't have insane chemicals in them. That's not complicated, yet we sign up for it every day, and we watch our nieces and nephews, and it's a hard thing. But I do think that this is forcing everyone to look at that a lot more. And I mean, it's overdue. Whether this is a short-term or long-term thing, I don't know. I don't think it's worth building a strategy on it. That's why we look at institutional metrics, especially. Like, that's the truth for me, right? I don't care about Mondelez, like, about, versus Monsanto or anything. It's all shit to me as far as I'm concerned. What I'm concerned with is which stocks look like they're going to be bet on and which don't. That's what it comes down to.
And I guess the good thing, we talked about a lot of the bad things of capitalism, but the good thing is that when there's a problem like this, some hungry entrepreneur can solve it. So maybe there'll be exciting, healthy, and actually truly healthy food company or snack company that gets started, and maybe they'll take over from a lot of these more legacy kind of like 100-year-old conglomerates now in the food space. But we'll have to watch it all play out over the coming years. And something else that I want to see watch play out is if these streaming companies are going to become kind of similar to the legacy entertainment companies. I saw this story about how Netflix and FIFA agreed to a deal where Netflix is going to get exclusive broadcasting rights to the Women's World Cup in 2027 and 2031. it seems like even throughout the time where we've been covering how they've been getting into live sports, it's now just become more and more to where they have live sports and it's not even like they're getting into it anymore. But what I'm wondering is, it seemed like streaming was so popular in the beginning because of the low price point and the wide range of entertainment options. But it seems like as the months and years go on, it's just becoming legacy TV on a computer. Like now Netflix has an ads option. They charge more for different packages. They charge more for live sports. Do you foresee a future in like a decade where, just like how there was, the five main channels on TV, there's 3 to 5 streamers who kind of own everything, and it's your payment. Like I just saw a story about how YouTube TV prices going up like a lot this year. Do you think it's just going to become what it was, just in streaming?
I absolutely do. Except the only difference is there's going to be experiences, right? I think it's going to be there's going to be a TV subscription where you can pay like any movie, anything, whatever, you'll be able to watch it, right? All the way down to you have no access, you're watching ads 50% of the time, and that's what's free. And I think it's just going to scale up from there. Like before, because we're living in a world with AI and personalization is going to get much more, and that's it. It's just going to be like, instead of everybody having to watch the same 3 blocks of commercials, rich, poor, whatever, it's going to be like, no, if you're poor, then you're going to have to spend 50% of your time watching commercials. If you're rich, you're going to have this like luxury experience where not only have you ever even seen a commercial, there's going to be content that you have access to that, no one else would.
So it would seem like the glory days of streaming are over then. And, it's a question that I have with a lot of businesses. Like, as they try to become more profitable, it seems like they make the product worse. Do you think that's going to be a problem for Netflix in specific and some other companies in this space? Maybe people won't enjoy the product as much and look for alternatives.
No, I think it's what I'm saying, right? I think it'll be specialized a little bit, right? I think that some people won't enjoy the product as much, but they won't have better alternatives. It'll be because they can't afford the premium version of it, right? And I think that if you have enough money, you'll enjoy the product. Like, I think YouTube TV is a perfect example. Like, I'll probably cancel it because I just really wanted to watch the NFL games, but it's been a very luxurious experience to have YouTube TV during the NFL season. I can DVR whatever I want really easily. It's like it kind of knows what I want to watch. All that. It's way too expensive. I never use it. I pretty much just watch football on the weekends. But I think that speaks to the point of like, we're going in a direction where if you have money, you're going to love the product. And like, if you look at something like Freevee on Amazon, that whole thing that they launched, like that's even so annoying because they put some movies on Freevee where you can't even buy them. It's like, if you want to watch this movie, you have to watch commercials, right? And I think that's where the experience is going to get watered down. People are going to hate the products that are geared towards like free or mass audiences or whatever, but they're not really going to have a choice. Like, it's going to be the same kind of situation where if you want a better product, you got to pay more.
I was trying to find this stat. I couldn't find it, but it was something like, the illegal like streaming sites that do a lot of the live sports events they now make up half the total revenue of like all the money that goes into watching and the broadcasting of live sports. It was something like 40 billion per year for sports and like 20 billion for illegal, which is just crazy. I don't know if like these entertainment companies could ever do anything to actually crack down on that. Maybe it would help them. Maybe that's like the next level of stuff that's going on. But I think it does show you that people are kind of not willing to pay maybe sometimes, and especially when it's so easy to get them on these sites. And it seems like there's no repercussions really.
Yeah. Well, the quality, like those streaming things, the quality sucks. I don't know if you've tried.
Oh, I do for UFC. Please don't come after me, UFC, but those I definitely do. And yeah, you get the pop-up ads that you wouldn't want to be next to your mom when they pop up. Okay, there's a story of 2 car companies, Japanese automakers, looking to merge These companies are Nissan and Honda, and if it goes through, it would become the third largest automaker in the world by sales. What do you make of these two companies looking to do this now? Is it, the Tesla effect of Tesla just dominance in the auto market continuing and the pressure that it's putting on other automakers? Anything else in your mind that would cause these two large companies to do this at this time?
Yeah, I honestly think the most shocking part about that is that combining would make them the third largest automaker in the world. Like, I think of Honda as like huge sales. Same thing with Nissan. So I'd say that that's like the biggest shock right there. But yeah, it's showing that it's getting harder and harder to compete. There's a big, issue with brand. A lot of it's moving towards electric. It's like it shows that there's a transition happening, right? Because I think if it was just going to be expected to be business as usual, you wouldn't see Nissan and Honda merge. I think this is a big sign that says not to expect business as usual in this industry. And do you know who the first two are? I'm assuming Toyota's one, but I don't know.
I don't know who the first two are. I was only thinking Toyota, Ford, and Tesla. Those are the only ones that would come to my mind of possibly being bigger. I don't know. I guess it's possible. Maybe a Chinese car company could, and it's on sales, not by market cap. The article gave so. Maybe,
there we go. Volkswagen is 2. I guess they got all that Europe stuff. Hyundai is 3. Stellantis is 4. What the hell is Stellantis?
What is Stellantis? What brands do they have?
Oh, that's Chrysler. Wow. Fiat Chrysler. Okay, I see that. Wow, there you go. See? I thought the Japanese companies were doing better. I mean, I guess Toyota. Toyota's but Volkswagen is not too far behind them.
Volkswagen, do they have Audi too, Volkswagen?
I'm looking in Volkswagen Group. They must. Yeah, they must have Audi. They've got to have a lot of, yeah. Audi, Bentley, Cupra, Jetta, Lamborghini. They have Porsche. Maybe the Porsche is doing well. Surprising.
So wait, GM and Ford were not in like the top 5?
GM's 5. SAIC for China is 6. 7 is Ford. Yeah, and then Honda and Nissan are 8 and 9. No wonder they're doing this.
Yeah, so a little bit of consolidation in the Japanese auto markets.
BYD is 11. Yeah, like you mentioned Tesla. Like Tesla's not even on the radar here.
That's crazy. Because I saw a stat by market cap. I think Tesla's like 50% of the entire auto market now, and they're not even top 10 in sales. Just shows you like how the investing world views their tech and like the years to come, the innovation and growth. Another company, if we want to spin to this, that's innovating and growing, that our signals have been very bullish on, we haven't talked about them in a little bit, is Eli Lilly. There was a positive update for them in their Zepbound, which is their weight loss drug. It has now been approved, which is the first on the market to be approved for the treatment of sleep apnea. So, I think we were kind of joking when we were talking about before the stream. It's kind of the everything drug now. It seems day by day more and more approvals come along. But our signals have been very bullish on Eli Lilly in 2024. With this news, do you see, no reason why it can't continue in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing about like we always say they do a great job on R&D. They do a great, they're a well-run company in terms of drug discovery, but they're always trading at challenging PEs. I'm gonna just take a look. All right. Oh, their forward P. Yeah. See, for June 30th, 2024, Actually, they're trading at a pretty reasonable one. They caught up 33.78. I mean, it's not great, but it was a lot higher. Yeah, I mean, we like Eli Lilly. I was looking at just adding it right now. I was like, oh, because I'm even long short and I'm feeling a little bullish. QQQ Matt has actually been texting me since he's been off, and he's saying that QQQ net option sentiment has been creeping up. And I was thinking about adding something, but
And one thing that I was seeing this morning, we've been talking about
37.
the Santa
Yeah.
rally, but I think the technical definition of the Santa rally is the last 5 days of December and the first 2 of January. So I don't know if that starts today, or I think I might have heard even tomorrow. But for all the stats you see flying around about how bullish the Santa rally is, that's over basically the next 2-week period of the markets, historically. So will Santa come to town or not?
Yeah, I'm looking for a stock to add right now, but there's not really good non-option sentiment trends on any of these stocks. Apple is the closest thing. Maybe I'll add Apple. Nothing overpowering enough to do a midstream ad though.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, because our signals were very high on coin and a lot of the other Bitcoin related plays. We've seen the first real pullback since it kind of shot up after the election. Are any of those looking interesting to you, or are our signals still bullish on coin and the Bitcoin related stuff? Would you be buying this dip maybe if it continues, or how are you thinking about that whole area?
Yeah, I mean, we still like the Trump trades stocks. We did drop Tesla because it went down in option sentiment a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised to add it again soon. Might be expecting a little bit of a correction, but yeah, coin we still like. I think we're planning to. I mean, as long as it stays, it's been solid at 100 in option sentiment. So even as other things have fallen, it stayed good. So yeah, we like it.
Is there any way you don't like to give a lot of the behind the scenes of the signals, but if coin is at 100 net option sentiment, is there any way for you to tell if the bets are even increased more from the point of when it went to 100, or is it kind of just if it's the leader of the signal, it's the leader of the signal, and then
I
it's just going to
haven't
be at
looked into
100?
this, but the best way to look ever for any of these metrics is to see what the score is for the second. So now coin is not number 1 anymore. Coin is at 96. So it faded a little bit. But Wesco International is number 1. But you can always know. Oh, I might add AppLovin right now. How's it doing today? Yeah, we're grabbing it.
That is an interesting point, though, about the net option sentiment leader, and I guess any of our signals, if it separates
So
itself
if
even more.
something has a commanding lead in an option sentiment, it might be 100 and the next stock might be 97 or 96. It means it's that much higher than the next one down.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny that you bring up AppLovin, because they were the next stock I was going to bring up.
Yeah, we're adding them.
So AppLovin was number 1. MicroStrategy was actually number 2. For all of 2024, USA tech stocks of over 5 billion in market cap in performance. And I just wanted to bring that up today. Obviously, our signals have been super bullish. It's a company that I never even heard of before until we talked about them. And that company is so hot that it actually overheated your camera, George.
Oh. Wow.
On this cold day, your camera's overheating. You must have good heat.
Yeah. How do we? I'll try to turn it off and then back on, and we'll see if that works.
No problem. All right, everybody who's tuned into the stream today, stick with me while George tries to get his camera fixed. I see we had close to 500 viewers in the stream. Hopefully you guys have all enjoyed it so far. If you did, please like it up. Trying to get the YouTube channel growing in the positive direction. We just crossed 2,000 subscribers. I see we have under 10 likes, so let's get the double-digit likes on the stream today. And for all the people on Twitter as well. we'll take the likes and views wherever we can get them. All right. So we have a few more topics I'm going to bring up today. Just two before we turn it over to the model portfolio update at the end. But as always, if you guys have any questions, stock specific, overall, macro views, strategy, whatever you want to hear talked about, we're happy to discuss on the stream. Let's see how the markets are doing. I haven't checked since the stream started today. If any of you were here last Wednesday, it was a very different vibe on the streams. The markets were kind of tanking after Jerome Powell, and there was a lot of. It was actually the first stream ever where we were making tons of moves live, which is probably really helpful for all of the viewers who were tuning in because it was a pretty crazy day. But the vibes are a little bit different in the market today, a little bit more calm. One thing I want to ask George when he comes back is how it is on the inside of Wall Street on weeks like this when, I feel like a lot of people maybe their attention goes away from the market for 1 week. Maybe the bosses of the Wall Street firms and hedge funds don't show up, or maybe just today and take the rest of the week off. So, what is it like inside of Wall Street, working on Wall Street on weeks like this? What is the atmosphere like? And just a little bit of the Wall Street culture. Because he shared a funny story. I don't know when we talked about it last. It might have been like July 4th, the last time we talked about it, and it was a pretty good story. So we'll see
All
here.
right, let's see.
Yeah, it's looking good. We are back in business. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about AppLovin and how our signals predicted a company that I had never even heard of, and how it was, so powerful. And there's been a few really, really powerful calls like that with our signals. SMCI before it went down, when it had its run up. So many others, Coin, Tesla, Meta, now AppLovin. Pretty cool to see a company that's kind of not even on investors' radar, and our signals can pick it up.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is in stating the obvious. Like, we talk about how we're looking mainly at options pricing when we do it, but there's some mechanisms inside net option sentiment that reward just like the raw dollars bet on the options as well. We have a mix. It's more weighted towards just pure pricing of calls above where the stock is trading versus puts below. There's a lot of complications, but we do reward sizing of bets just so we can see that kind of clarity, right? When a $37 billion market cap stock like App is sitting at the top of our screener above things like Meta, above things like Microsoft, above, Eli Lilly, Tesla, that speaks volumes to the degree of confidence institutions have relative to the size. So yeah, that was one that just, we do. Sometimes we have these stocks that are just staring us in the face. And we even talked about it the first few times I saw it. I didn't take it that seriously because it was a new, I wasn't unfamiliar, but that's what Prospero does. It just keeps reminding you that the bets are there until you listen. So makes my job easy a lot of the time.
And so I wanted to get your opinion on this AI story I saw, because I think one of the debates about this space that still goes on is if people will embrace the creative side of AI. And when I say that, I mean like one of the stories I've heard people talk about is that AI and computer learning have been better than people at chess for like decades now. But people don't watch two AIs play a chess match, they still watch people. And people don't know if, consumers of AI will embrace that side of AI. But I saw this story about how this AI called Bado is a machine artist and has made $5 million since 2021. And what it does is it generates around 70,000 images per week. And then a group of people that are involved with this company, it's called the Bado DAO, and DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. They vote and they pick the winner out of the top like 200 photos. And that one goes to auction. And throughout this process, it's made $5 million. Seems like people are embracing it in that sense. Maybe this is a niche market with the NFT crypto community, people who are very excited about this tech. Maybe that's why it's successful. Do you see this as a sign of people embracing that side of it and it'll become more popular? Do you think there will be AI artists in the future that like the general public embrace? How do you feel about all of that side of the AI world?
Well, it's a meaty topic. There's a lot of things. First, I think that DAOs, which are distributed ownership structures, basically, that's kind of like if the problem is what we kind of see with United Health, like denying people claims and being kind of heartless. The cure are these DAOs. There's ownerships for the masses, right? And I think that's why they're created. So I think that in and of itself is pretty interesting. But I think you also have some interesting questions about AI. And I think that people want to think of creativity as like a bastion of human thinking, right? Because I think that's one of the ways that we separate ourselves from, chimps or gorillas or whatever. It's like, oh, we can make art, we can create. That's like a clear line of delineation. But at the same time, if you get down to brass tacks about what creativity actually is, it's just different parts of your brain connecting in ways, seeing things in the world that other people don't see. But that is still some kind of equation that is being solved in your brain. And it stands to reason, I'm not trying to get on a philosophical pedestal, but it stands to reason that any equation that could be solved in a brain with, less compute can be solved in a brain with more compute. It might not be in the same way. You might not feel the same connection to it, right? Because there's a certain thing, maybe some of the things that connect us to, like some of the things in art that connect us to it are the human element, that we can see ourselves in some of these things. Those are the complicated questions that are going to be answered. But personally, I don't think creativity is some unsolvable problem. It's just a mathematical formula that a lot of us don't have the capacity to solve, but it doesn't mean something with significantly more brain power can't also solve it. So I think people need to start preparing themselves for that kind of thing.
I think how I think about this is that art isn't like, black and white. There's nobody who can say like that is purely good and that is purely bad. So maybe these tools will allow creative people to kind of produce way more and have way more freedom than they would have otherwise had. And they'll still have their vision and their directive, and they'll choose their favorite. But maybe it'll just enhance the skills of these people and the ability to just create way more than they would have had in the past. Or, I mean, I don't know what the time decrease that this tech will allow people to create, but it's got to be 100 times or more of the speed that people are going to be able to do stuff now.
Yeah, I mean, before we just have robots doing everything, there's going to be a lot of human robot pairings, teams that do better than just the robots or just the people. I think people really need to remember that. And if you're afraid of computers, the best thing you could possibly do is learn how to integrate them into your process, because scary, not scary, whatever you want to think, computers have to learn a lot about how we think about things, how we do things. They need a lot of wiring from us before they can start taking over. And if you think you can stop them from doing this, you're wrong. You could either be a part of that process and leverage it, or you're just going to be boxed out and you're going to look stupid. Those are really your options. But we are not yet that close to computers just replacing humans. So learn to work with them is my advice.
Sounds like we don't have a choice, so you might as well.
Yeah.
Your camera
Pretty
went dark
much.
again, so maybe we'll do the switch over. I have one more thing to ask you on the other side, but should we switch to the other camera?
No, let's do it.
You have no camera though.
Oh, all right. We'll do the switch.
Okay. So
We lost it again.
yeah, we'll see George on the other side for everybody who's watching now. And I'm going to ask him the question I was kind of teeing up when he was gone for the first moment there about the inside Wall Street. I'm very curious about what goes on in the Wall Street world around these holidays. And we are also going to get into the model portfolio right after that. So let me do a live look at the SPY and QQQ net option sentiment, maybe just maybe, we'll see the SPY back in double digits at least, getting in the holiday spirit. And before I talk about it, let me just say I hope you guys all have a wonderful holiday. All of our viewers who come to these streams week after week, I really hope it helps you. And now, that 2024 is coming to an end. Hopefully, you had a great 2024 and even better 2025. And yeah, hopefully, we'll help you again next year and that you enjoy these streams. Okay, so I have the SPY pulled up, and it is not double digits, but it is getting close. It is at a 9 net option sentiment, which, although extremely bearish overall, coming off of 0, maybe that's a little better. George, the SPY is at 9, so we're almost breaking
yeah.
back into the double digits, and the QQQ is at 24. So they're both increasing. But before we get into the model portfolio, there is one question I want to ask you, which is just, from your time working on Wall Street, I would like you to give us an inside view on what a week like this will be, where there's a holiday and, maybe a lot of people, their minds are elsewhere in this week. Is there any shenanigans going on? Maybe the bosses are out of the offices for this week. Anything out of the ordinary going on inside of the Wall Street world on a week like this?
I mean, it's not like the summer where we joke where everybody's checked out. I think it's a mix. I think some people are checked out, but there's plenty of people still working. So I think you got to treat it a lot like a normal market week. But in reality, it is probably closer to like a summer week than anything else.
Yeah, and with the market being a half day tomorrow, closed on Wednesday, I hope nobody is really playing options or weekly options or something, because I know that will affect.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
Yeah. So stay away from that. Position more for 2025. But yeah, it seems like the market signals are kind of coming back from their lows in the doldrums. So maybe we are setting up for the Santa Claus rally after all.
Yes.
The QQQ is now leading on the day at up 2/3%. The Russell is the laggard at down 1/3%. Everything else in the middle. Dow slightly red, SPY slightly green. So bit of a mixed day, but all moving in a positive direction right now.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting some things set up. Do we have any questions? I'm getting some.
We do not have any questions right now, but for everyone watching, feel free to type away, and we will answer anything you guys are curious about. One thing I could mention is that I've seen this stock now popping up on our signals for some time, ticker PI, Impinge. Just figure I'd bring it up. It's had bullish signals for like a while. It's one of those smaller companies, but it doesn't seem like the stock has made a move. So maybe it's something to watch for early next year. Keep it on everyone's radar.
All right. Sorry, everyone. I'm getting everyone a discount code.
Another stock that's on our list today, which I've never seen before, ticker PSTG, Pure Storage. That's a little surprising to see that up there.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Wolf Stigma, I thought that the Santa Claus rally will be skipped this year. Maybe not.
Okay. What did you say? QQQ is at
24. And the SPY is at 9.
What was it? 37 a second ago.
We always, for SPY and QQQ, basically just look at net options. Do you ever really look at upside and downside for them?
Nah. I don't care about that much. It's longer term.
Consumer defensive is getting hammered. We'll look for opportunities there. Tech and consumer cyclical, perhaps around a new Santa rally, are looking better, but tech especially, giving the better 1 week trends. Healthcare also looks like a bull opportunity. We got a comment. Greetings from Stockholm from Saman. I hope I'm saying your name right. I recently came across information about Gilead Sciences' newly HIV vaccine. However, the pricing appears to be quite high, $2,300 per dose, with 2 doses required. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Does Gilead Sciences hold an exclusive patent on this vaccine, or might other companies be able to produce it at a more affordable price in the future?
Interesting. I mean, I don't. It's the kind of thing like look at Ozempic. Like once the molecule's out there, people will rip it off, but they'll probably be able to make a lot of money for a bit. No doubt. I'm sure everybody wants that vaccine. Okay. Oh, what we gotta do? It's very quiet. Are you still there, Steven?
Yeah, I'm here. Should I play some Christmas music for this final stream before?
I mean, sure. Why not? I'm not going to be a Grinch.
I don't want to make it too loud. Is that low enough?
I think it's good.
Okay. When you do this off stream, do you like ever play music or anything? Like I feel like sometimes music can lock you into a good zone.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably, if I was like doing like this kind of thing, it's a good bet.
Any requests from our chats on songs? This might be your only opportunity. Christmas songs. I see Wolf Stigma is back in our chat asking, how am I? I'm doing very well. This year has flown by, Wolf. It's been a busy
you
year
haven't
for
been around a
2021.
little, Wolf.
He said it's been a very busy year. He hasn't been able to come to the streams, but he's going to be back in 2025. And he's
Great.
been
We'd love
rewatching
to
them.
have you.
Question from Bob Safford. Why does all the charts look blurry? Are you talking about on our stream or in Prospero, Bob?
I don't see any blurry charts.
It could just be your possibly your settings on wherever you're watching this. Maybe if you click on like the, you got to make sure you're on like 1080p or whatnot. But let us know. if that helps you.
All right. I think I'm good on this. CVS a win. It's barely a win. Maybe we'll hold it. So we have how many? 33. Just as many long and short. Nope, we'll just leave it.
Wolf, I thought you guys have more people watching for what you do and for the app allows to get other girls as serious money. The end of that, I'm not really sure about, but thank you for the compliment. I believe it was one. We need people like you, Wolf, hyping up the stream when we're live. Glad to hear. I'm sure the app helps you a lot in your investing.
All right, we're good to go here. All right, any other questions?
No other questions, I believe. Just some compliments from Wolf. So
All right, thanks
we
everyone.
we are not going to be live Wednesday, obviously, but we'll be back sometimes next week. So we'll see you all then. And George, happy holidays until next week. See you soon.
Thanks, Gilbert.